Hello all, good morning and warm welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining on optimizing cost of quality through incremental test automation. This is jointly conducted by Aspire Systems and M-Files. And I'm Deva, one of the speakers on this webinar. Before I speak myself, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Tero Piranainen. He is the Director of Software Quality Assurance in M-Files. Tero has 20 years of experience in various senior positions in software engineering and research. Tero holds master degree from Tampere University of Technology in computer science and software engineering. At M-Files, Tero has been leading testing and test automation activities in M-Files product development, ensuring that new features and improvements meet and exceed the customer expectations. I, Deva Veluchami, test automation consultant at Aspire Systems, have 8 years of experience in testing with extensive working knowledge on different test automation tools, technologies, and frameworks. Continuous testing and continuous integration were one of my work area as my day-to-day activity. Recently, my focus is more on artificial intelligence and chatbot testing. I hold master's degree in quality management from Birla Institute of Technology and Science, and my main thesis during my master's was cost of quality in product development. And I'm also one of the subject matter expert of cost of quality tool at Aspire Systems. Now, let me quickly brief through what Aspire and M-Files do. Aspire Systems is a global technology services firm with expertise in enterprise solutions, digital services, software engineering, testing, and infrastructure services. We work with independent software vendors and some of the world's most innovative enterprises in retail, BFSI, and education verticals. Company currently has over 2,600 employees and 150 plus customers globally, and we are CMMI level 3 certified. Aspire has a growing presence in US, UK, Middle East, Asia Pacific, and Europe. For the 9th time in a row, we have been selected as best companies to work for by the Great Place to Work Institute. And about M-Files, M-Files is next generation intelligent information management platform that helps people find and use information more effectively. M-Files has been named one of the world's most innovative and fastest growing technology companies by industry analysts such as Gartner and Forrester. Aspire provides various services to M-Files for the past 8 years, and we are like kind of providing almost most of the software services to M-Files. And in testing, we are one of the testing partners for M-Files, and we provide various test automation solutions and manual testing services to M-Files. So in today's presentation, we will be covering what is the importance of cost of quality and what is the role that test automation plays in cost of quality. And we would be talking more about why do we need incremental test automation to optimize the cost of quality. Finally, some tools and methodologies recommendations. So this is the whole takeaway from the takeaway of this webinar. Before we get into the webinar, I would like to share you some instructions. So during the session, if you have some questions, please feel free to post at your screen, where you can see at the where you can see the question tab located at your screen. So you can post the questions and we will be answering those questions during Q&A session in the webinar. In case we run out of the time and we could not answer your questions, we will be coming back to you in your email with answers. Have a pleasant webinar. We will now get into the actual webinar. So quality. Yeah, quality is like general excellence of a product or service. So we need this quality because quality is something going to get us the customer satisfaction. And when the customers are satisfied, then we get good revenue as well. So customer satisfaction is somewhat directly proportional to the quality of a product or service that we provide. So that's the reason why every organization needs more focus on quality. When we have more focus on the quality, then we need to see how much cost that we spent on measuring the quality and to maintain the quality. So there comes the cost of quality. Cost of quality is basically the total cost that we incur on all quality activities. And the main goal of cost of quality is to balance the capabilities and cost, reduce rework and bug fixing, and in the way reduce operational costs, delivering a quality product to the customers. So that's one of the main goals that cost of quality has. And apart from that, it also provides very good value to the business efficiency. So it increases the throughput of the business. That's the reason why we wanted to measure the cost of quality and wanted to keep that in control as well. And measuring this cost of quality going to help the company management to evaluate the soundness of the investment that they make into the quality. So it's going to help much more on that as well. This cost of quality can be widely categorized into two. One is like cost of control or cost of good quality, and the other is like cost of failure of control or cost of bad quality. So whatever the activities that we do in order to control the cost that we spent on quality, then it's called cost of control. And if we fail and we finally pay something in order to convince the customers for the poor quality product or service, then it comes under the cost of failure of control or cost of bad quality. Cost of quality is further classified into two categories like prevention and appraisal costs, and cost of bad quality is further classified into internal failure costs and external failure costs. Understanding this cost of quality is somewhat important to every organization because it's finally going to improve the product or service that what we provide, and it's going to gain us the customer loyalty as well. That's the reason why we say the cost of quality is very much important to any organization. Now coming to types of cost of quality. So as I said, there are like four categories like prevention, appraisal, internal and external failure cost. So what are the costs that you spend in order to minimize the failure costs and like the investment that whatever we make finally to reduce any kind of failures or any kind of like a poor quality, then those comes under the prevention quality. Basically, any kind of cost that you spend in order to maintain the documentation, to plan the testing, to derive some estimation and any kind of testing plan, testing architecture document, and any proposals that we make for any kind of testing, then all those things come under the prevention cost. And in terms of test automation, the test framework, the test automation framework, which we say is more important, comes under the prevention cost because that is something going to take care of the entire test automation. So the cost that what we spent on all these activities will come under the prevention cost in terms of testing. And coming to the appraisal cost itself is the main phenomena in the testing, and all of the major testing activities lies under this appraisal cost. It basically helps the cost that whatever we put to these appraisal cost will help us to identify the defects before even product or shipped to the end customer. As I said, the main activities of the testing lies here. So any cost that we spent in order to have some testing tools, test planning tools, test management tools, and any reviews and all the core testing activities, it's like manual or automation. So any kind of testing activities that we do and the cost that we spend on those manual resources and the tools as well. and any kind of audits that we make in order to ensure that we are in line with the product, in line with the process. So these kinds of activities, which are like something main testing activities, so those kind of costs will come under the appraisal costs. Now coming to the cost of poor quality or cost of failure of control costs. So they are further classified into internal and external failure cost. So internal failure cost, it is something that is so like even before I say like what kind of activity here like we do, let me like shortly narrate what we do in product development. So we design, we develop, we test, and then we just give to some of the consultants or some internal customers to make use of the product as a beta release in order to just get opinion about the product even before we give it to the end customer. So now when the product issue is missed by the QA team itself and was identified by those and identified from the beta release of your product, then probably fixing the cost that what we spent to fix those issues will come under the internal failure cost. So any kind of retesting, any rework, any kind of wrong estimations has led to more amount of work, then probably that will come under the internal failure cost. And external failure cost, which is even more serious in all these type of costs, because these are the costs that we are going to pay to the customers if we miss something, some quality, and customers are like not satisfied, then we wanted to convince the customer, so we pay some penalties, or to fix the compliance, then probably the amount that what we spend is gonna be like much more. That's the reason this external failure cost is something will shoot up. If an organization is spending more external failure cost, then it's gonna shoot up the entire quality and like mess up everything. So probably we should be focusing more about the cost that what we spend on these internal failure and external failure, and we should be controlling more. That would probably be giving us like good control on the cost of quality itself. So we will now see how this test automation is gonna help us optimizing the cost of quality, and basically I would say this test automation is going to give us a way to the cost of quality, controlling the cost of quality basically. So as I said, the major testing activity itself is lying on the appraisal cost. So we should be focusing more, seeing how we spend, how we reduce the cost that we spent on the appraisal cost. There is no doubt that like we should be optimizing like internal and external failure cost, but at the same time, major testing or major activities of the quality lies in the appraisal cost, and we should be finding out a way how we could reduce the appraisal cost. And one good or one and only solution in order to reduce the cost that what we spent on appraisal cost would be the test automation. But at this because when we just like reducing the cost at what we spend on appraisal cost, it should not like also lead to increase in internal and external failure cost. In that way, like test automation is going to help us not to increase internal and external failure cost, but also helps reducing the appraisal cost also. So that's the reason like we should be focusing the test automation as one of the way to reduce the cost of quality. Now we will see some basic concepts of the test automation itself. So what the test automation is, and how and when I should start automation. So and what should be the process if I have decided to go for the automation. Probably the first one would be the tool selection. You should be selecting the right tool for the product which we are planning to make the test automation. So that's something more important. And because in the current world that we have plenty of tools, and all those tools should be like carefully observed, and we should be picking up the right tool for the evaluation, and finally we should be deriving. So after we have derived the right tool, then we should be introducing some process for the test automation. How are we going to automate and what we are going to automate? After we have derived the process, then we can really get into the actual test automation process itself, like designing a test automation framework and like planning on the test automation and finally developing the test automation. So once we have developed every aspect of test automation, what we would need, then we could put into the system where we can execute those test automation. And when along with the execution, we also need to manage the tests, because that is something a part of test automation itself. So since its product is evolving, then probably the test automation needs to be maintained and evolved as well. So that's one of the process that what we wanted to do. Finally, as any quality thing says, like we should be having a criteria to review and assess the process and the test automation system that what we have. So this is the basic process workflow that what we should do or what we should be making out of the test automation. So where should I focus on when I've decided like I'm going to automate and I have designed something? Then what are the focus area from my testing should be on test automation is like, so it can be like any area, like beginning from the unit testing. So that is the primary area where we could focus the first test automation. After that, like integration tests and service related tests, which is more important. After that, we could focus more on functional tests and non-functional tests as well. So these are all the focus area of the test automation where we could convert all the manual repetitive process to be the test automation. So coming to the pitfalls, and like, so there are some myths as well. People think that like test automation is kind of replacement to the manual testing what we do. It's kind of no is the answer, because test automation is not gonna replace the manual testing that what we do, but it's gonna help the manual testing or helps removing the redundant work that what we do in the manual testing process. And one of the biggest pitfall is that like, so people think we want to automate everything. So that's highly impossible with any product, because we cannot automate everything that what we have. So we should be prioritizing what we need to automate, and we should be picking the right candidates for the test automation. And like we have very high expectations on return on investment when we start test automation. So the return on investment is not something that we gain immediately when we start the test automation, but test automation itself is a continual process, and the return on investment is something that you see in the long run, but not immediately. And like, so people never think of test automation maintenance, and test automation maintenance is something gonna be a laborious work in the test automation. And one thing that we should agree on is the flaky tests. So any test automation system would have the flaky tests, and that is something kind of unavoidable in the test automation world. So what kind of benefits that we are going to get out of test automation is like, it's going to reduce the cost of testing that what we do. As I said, since when it's gonna reduce the cost of testing, it's gonna reduce the cost of appraisal that what we spent in cost of quality factors. It's going to improve the quality because we keep running running the test cases more often than manual testing, and it's going to shorten our testing time because it can run 24/7, whereas manual testing does not happen like that. So these are all the real and like very highlighted benefits out of test automation we get. And like, so what is going to be the very simple process from test automation is like, so you develop, you execute, you maintain. So we develop the test automation scripts, we keep maintain test automation scripts, and we execute the test automation scripts. So this is three-way simple process of the test automation. And we say test automation. Now we should see where we actually spend on test automation, and we need to have good understanding on that as well. So the first primary factor where we spend on test automation is like on the test automation developers. So the manual resources who will be developing and maintaining the test automation. So obviously the cost that we need to put on those resources. Apart from that, the cost would be on the test automation tools, like if it's going to be some enterprise tools or and any kind of IDE. Again, if it's going to be something enterprise, then probably we would be spending cost on those any kinds of tools that supports test automation and the test automation tool itself. So this is the second major cost that we would be spending when we say we are going to automate. And the third would be the cost that we spent on environment. So environment can be like the local VMs or any cloud-based solution like Sauce Labs. So if we are going to maintain some kind of environments for test automation, then probably we will be putting cost there as well. Obviously, we need to put cost on those environments because that is even more needed for us to keep it executing. Now we will see why do we need the incremental test automation. So that we say that this is as one solution that would be optimizing the cost of quality. So we see now why do we need this incremental test automation. So now the world is moving towards DevOps, and Agile is a long time practice, and now the software world is more closely moving towards the DevOps. DevOps means we shorten the cycle to reach the customer. So we wanted to reach the customer very fast. So that is one such reason why do we need the incremental test automation. Requirements are evolving, changing. So change is something that consistent, or change is always consistent in any product. So requirements keep evolving and products keep evolving. So when everything is evolved and we wanted to reach the customer in a shorter time, then obviously the quality system that what we do should evolve. Then obviously we need to increment the test automation, and we wanted to have a scalable testing. And also we wanted to do the testing more frequently when we wanted to reach the customer short time, and more frequently when we wanted to reach the customer with a lot of updates. Then probably we also need frequent testing so that we ensure the quality of a product. And when we have evolving product requirements, and when we have a lot of customers, then obviously we have lot of devices and the environment that we need to ensure that the product is working fine across the devices and environment. So we need to do testing there as well. So these are all putting all together that says that we need the incremental test automation. And from our terminology, what this incremental test automation is like. So it is not something that you keep increment the same test automation system in a vertical way again and again. So for example, we thought of investing on UI test automation and any functional test automation, and then we don't keep putting more and more on only functional testing, and we keep increment. So that is one kind of incremental test automation that we should definitely do. Apart from that, we also say that see at a breadth level, and then keep moving on other areas of test automation as well, non-functional testings like performance testing, load testing, compatibility testing, and the security testing, API testing. So we should be seeing all the areas of the testing wherever is possible, and we should keep increment all those areas. Now I would request Tero to talk more on the incremental test automation and continuous testing.
Okay, hello, this is Tero Piirainen, Director of Software Quality Assurance from M5 company, and next I'll cover two important concepts in modern software development process: continuous delivery and continuous testing. And then later on in this presentation, I will cover more of our own experiences with continuous DevOps processes and incremental test automation. So first of all, concerning continuous integration, continuous delivery. So Agile and DevOps mean that we make frequent, even continuous releases that should be reaching market with shorter time to market. The Agile has been focusing a lot on the development practices, things that are close to software development, and DevOps extends that towards the customer, bringing the development and the operations closer together and shortening those delivery cycles. From testing point of view, it means that we have little testing time between the consecutive releases, and also it causes pressure to deliver quality within those short time periods. It means that as we have little time between releases, if a problem escapes our testing, it means that most probably our customer is affected by that. It used to be in the waterfall traditional model that there were a long time where software was tested by QA team, and whatever issues were fixed were found were fixed, and there was long time before the release was made. But as said, in Agile we don't have such a long period of time, and it also means that it is not only the QA team that should be working towards the release, improving the quality, making sure that the software works as expected. It means that we take the development teams heavily into consideration here, meaning that the developers participate in testing, having developer level testing, unit testing done, white box testing, and so on. In extreme cases, I guess test-driven development can be practiced. This does not only mean manual testing at all. So it is more important to involve also test automation in those early stages. So it is not only manual testing, but bringing the test automation as early as possible into the process. Ideally, it would mean that we would have some test automation available for every time we make code changes. So some level of testing is done for each of the code changes. So therefore, we can say that compared to the old traditional waterfall model, the incremental way of developing our test automation is more essential in these continuous delivery processes. Concerning continuous testing then, as said, continuous delivery needs continuous testing. We cannot deliver software that hasn't been tested, and as we develop and deliver software in fast pace, we also need to test continuously. So one of the main goals in continuous testing is definitely to provide fast and continuous feedback to the developers, to have very short testing cycles, very short feedback cycles for our product in different levels. It means that during the development, when we have internal deliveries, when we do product integration, have first alpha beta tests, and still before the very final production level, we have these feedback loops in action, testing the product on different levels. The end result here is that since we have these different feedback loops, it means that we identify the issues, the bugs, as early as possible, which means that it is less expensive to fix them. Therefore, we can conclude that continuous testing helps reducing the internal and external failure costs, and of course, reducing the cost of poor quality and improving the customer satisfaction.
So now coming to automation framework, why do we need automation framework to help the incremental test automation? It's because like it's going to give us like good value to the software delivery, and basically the framework is not something should be related to the technology, but itself to the user value. So it should focus more on user value. That's something important factor that to be considered on the test automation framework, and it should help us create more faster tests as well. Finally, it should help reducing the effort that what we spent on maintaining the test automation. So when we have all these things answered in our test automation framework, then probably it's gonna be the very good framework. So in the presentation, you could see the slide. You could see a picture on the test automation framework, which is one of Aspire framework on test automation, which we call it as ASTA. So here, this framework is like well defined in a way that to keep things externally or kept externally, and which needs to be coupled tightly or coupled very well. For example, we need to have the test data configuration files externally, and they are externally because that would be helping us to run with the different configurations and also with the different test various kind of data as well. And for example, to all the product related things like page object model and any kind of methods that would need a support running the execution. So those are very tightly kept inside the framework itself, and also for it gives it is providing us value of executing it with any kind of devices like remote virtual machines or some of the cloud providers as well. It also has very good on the reporting part, good very good customized reporting part, and also it gives a kind of plugin to different kinds of frameworks like BDD and different test automation like performance, load, and security. It has very good integration with API testing as well. So this is a kind of an example how the framework should look like, because the test automation framework is more needed to achieve the incremental test automation finally to optimize the cost of quality. Now we will take some a very basic and simple example how this how this incremental test automation is going to have an impact on cost of quality, and also provides us ease or job, and provides us a good value to the customers as well. So if you see these slides, so I have taken a very sample, very simple situation. So think that some of the software product has some 1,000 manual test cases. So in the month of January, they execute all those 1,000 test cases manually, and they are spending $50,000 to do this 1,000 to execute these 1,000 manual test cases. And in the January, they have decided that they would be getting into the test automation in an incremental way. So in the month of February, they have started investing, and by the end of February, we have 100 of the test case automated, and we have only 900 test cases in the manual testing. Also consider that so here the practice is that we would need to run all these 1,000 test cases every month. So and they are automating every month in an incremental way. So in the month of February, now they have 100 cases in test automation and 900 cases in manual. And so now the cost that what they spend like on 90, like 900 plus 100 is like bit heavy. So it's like kind of 60,100 euros in the month of February, and in the month of March, now they have 200 test cases and 200 cases in automated and 800 cases manual. So gradually the test automation cases getting increased month by month, and manual test cases are getting down. So if you see from the month of May, you could see the cost itself is getting very well reduced. And finally, in the month of November or December, they just spent only the cost on the environment where they are executing these 1,000 tests, but not anymore on those execution of test cases. So that is just costing like $100 altogether. So if you see on an average, the month on an average that what you have spent if you have executed all these 1,000 cases manually every month, and because of these incremental test automation, the cost that what we have spent like altogether in a year, then we know, then we would be like gladly agreeing that like we have like controlled the appraisal cost, and also we had like very good return on investment as well. So this is one very good basic example that would help us understanding on how we should be incrementing the test automation and why we should be incrementing the test automation. This is very simple scenario that I have taken only for like automating these 1,000 test cases, but the results would be even more good like when we focus on different kinds of testing as well. So here, like we have a real situation from mFiles where we have got into this DevOps process, and like so how this incremental test automation has helped. So Tero would be like giving us more insight on that.
Yeah, so definitely our situation in our company and discussing about this, it's one of my favorite topics. So mFiles is a company providing a solution product on information management, and we deliver our solution to businesses and organizations of various sizes. It's a business kind of a company, and we have thousands of customers that are using our solutions in their everyday work, managing the information. And the starting point here for our journey was the challenge that we had with our traditional waterfall kind of delivery model. So originally, till last year, we were delivering releases every 6 months, and it took several months, 1 to 3 months of manual effort to test the release. It meant that there was lot of issues, lot of fixing during that time, and it took a long period of getting the product into releasable phase. We had test automation system. It was actually very good. We had developed it for a long time, but it was not incremented at rapid speed, meaning that there were changes in the software, and it took longer times since we maintained or included new test cases into test automation. We had continuous integration running all the time, and the main code line was executing the tests, but the breaks were frequent in the continuous integration, and there were problems with the test automation as well, numerous failures and flaky tests. So there wasn't full trust on our test automation at that point of time. But again, we were in the waterfall model, so we could allow some delays there, some problems there. In the end, we managed to create high quality product, but internally it was a process that we were not fully satisfied at that point of time. So it meant that roughly a bit more than 1 year ago, we decided that we would go towards DevOps processes to improve the speed and coverage of our testing and test automation, and take the incremental test automation as one of the solutions that we definitely want to have in our new process. So we understood the significance of the idea and started improving the coverage of test automation, first by extending that towards unit testing, integration testing, and it still covered functional and non-functional testing as well. So we improved the coverage of our test automation, not trying to cover everything, but picking and focusing on the most important areas. While we extended the test automation towards development, it meant that already now we run automated tests before each of the commit is merged into our main code line. And while doing that, we have learned the process in a way that nowadays the integration breaks in our continuous integration are rare, and actually our test automation performs excellent. We have quite extensive test automation. Our API test, for example, covers 16,000 tests, and typically every one of those is passing. So we have 100% pass rate for each of our builds using that test set. Also in UI test automation, the reliability is much improved. We are now having those monthly releases, and we have an exact feature roadmap for each of those releases, and for each month we update our test automation so that we cover all the new features in our product. Also, we have reduced. We have been focusing on test automation, improving that. It means that we are doing less manual regression testing. That is not needed anymore. We have high trust on our test automation. It can catch any regression issues in our product, and there's no need for manual regression testing. We have additional benefits also. One of most important is that we have now extensive coverage over different operating system versions, including the mobile applications, mobile OS versions, and product versions. It means that nowadays we can test more extensively different environments than before when we were doing a lot of manual testing. In the end, we can say that our journey towards the DevOps and taking the incremental test automation was successful, a success story. So at the moment, we have speeded up our process considerably, and we can deliver every month our product with less cost on poor quality. So we consider that definitely as a great success story.
That's really great that we have one real example how these incremental test automation and continuous testing has helped us to reach customer more faster and like ensuring the quality of the product as well. Now we have some kind of recommendations on methodologies and some tools we do based on these incremental test automation and cost of quality. So the first methodology would be hypertesting. So in the modern application development, just doing testing is not enough. So we wanted to have some quality engineering approach that takes a holistic view in devising and executing the right test strategy. So that's hypertesting is gonna talk all about, and basically it encompasses all forms of testing and takes care of both functional and non-functional testing with good integrated with the help of integrated tools. So it basically gives three key dimensions covering a host of process practices, tools, and reusable asserts to drive agile testing. at a very greater speed with a reduced cost. So it basically includes like three different criteria. One is functional, which covers basic functional testing, UI testing, API testing, and mobile testing. So mobile functional testing. So these all come under the functional categories, and we see that like what kind of tools and process would need for automation testing, cloud test automation, and what tools that would need for continuous integration and continuous delivery, and on the DevOps as well. So these kind of tools which we would need, we are like focusing on that, and also finally at the non-functional areas like performance, security, load, and compatibility testing. So now the product is like we have like a lot of platforms, and like we are like the focus of the product, the most of the products is like kind of ensuring that it wanted to support like most of the environments in a way that giving a flexibility to the customers to use any kind of environments. So here the hyper testing is basically touching all these aspects and says that like we should be focusing all these three things together, but not just like testing or test automation. It helps adopting the concept of test early and test often. We should be like testing more often and more frequently and at very early phase itself. And it says that we need to cover end-to-end testing for all the application and for all the applications that we have and every layers of the applications as well. And it says that like we need to customize the testing framework to have the multi-layered approach, so that like we just get the incremental test automation easier. So here the hyper testing makes a key difference in a fact that like it's taking a 360-degree holistic view in a testing, and it helps identifying all the possible areas of the product, where we should be measuring the quality, and finally directly or indirectly it's going to help us help the end customers. So how this hyper testing is going to help us, like it helps achieving high return on investment, much catchy, and it helps reducing cost of quality. That's what we speak from the beginning, and it helps great customer experience, which we actually wanted as a product development. And basically finally it boosts the productivity and delivery of the product as well. So that's the reason like why we say hyper testing is something that what we need basically to support incremental test automation and hyper testing. So because going forward the regular or traditional testing itself is not going to help us more. Now we will see the other approach called shift-left testing. So now in the software development world, there are more new methods coming, and there are like more new methodologies coming. So when the software development itself has new methods and technologies, then the traditional quality assurance practice what we make is not that helpful. So we should be like competing in a way. We should be like providing a support in a way that we help the product reaching the market in a shorter time without missing any defects from the product. So Agile and DevOps are growing faster in order to facilitate the continuous delivery, so that we feed the hungry customers who need like more and more updates and more like a new version of thoughts that what they have in the product. So when we wanted to reach the market in a very short time and without compromising the quality, then we say we need to have a kind of engineering approach that we term quality engineering approach. So the regular traditional quality assurance approach needs to be replaced with the quality engineering approach, which says shift towards left, do more developer testing, build the quality within the product itself when we develop, and and that should actually that would help us acting as the voice of the customer. And that's the reason why we say that like we need to involve the testers right from the beginning of the product development, not just at the not just at the phase of testing phase. So that would actually help us identifying the defects at very early, and when we are identifying the defects very early, then fixing those defects would be much easier. So when the defects are identified from the developer testing, then the cost to fix those is much less than fixing the defects identified by the customer. That's the reason why we say shift towards left and get into the quality engineering approach. That is gonna definitely boost us reaching the customers very soon and achieve what really we wanted as a product. Finally, there is like a cost of quality tool from Aspire, which we usually measure for every customer that we have. So here is one snapshot that what we have basically what was the cost of quality before we have implemented the incremental test automation, and what's the cost of quality after the incremental test automation. If you see towards the left, we understand more that like probably the cost that what we spent on internal and external failure costs are too high, prevention is bit low, appraisal is compromising, so they all are in danger level in a way to say that like, so the business is at risky level, so the customers are quite unsatisfied because of this poor quality product. When we keep spending more and more cost on internal and external failure cost, the investment that what the product development company is making is probably at very high risk. So when the incremental test automation was a solution, then we could see what has really made the change. So the appraisal cost has gone up really well, but at the same time the total cost was in good control, and finally the internal and external failure cost was much controlled here. So they are out of danger zone, and the investment that what they make on the product and the quality is like sensible here. So they have like very good. So when they really started to know about their cost of quality and when they have implemented their incremental test automation and continuous testing as the solution, we have seen a real breakthrough there by getting out of the danger zone and like with improved quality as well. So now we are towards the end of session, and I think we have some time to get inside Q&A. So we have like a lot of questions already. We will try to cover in a short time. If not, then probably we will reach out to you in an email to those questions. So the first question is like, how is functional different from UI? Tero, like, so would you like to answer this?
Well, I'm not totally sure what the question exactly about. So at least from M-Files, we are doing as part of our test automation. Most of the test automation in our case is functional testing. We have covered our product functionality pretty well in test automation, and we are doing the functional testing on both UI level and the API level. So functional testing covers also other parts than UI testing. We additionally do non-functional testing, a lot performance and security testing.
That's obviously true. So functional is something that covers the functionality of application, that can be through UI layer or that can be through service layer as well. So the question is, the next question is like, how did the team got swapped post the automation from 10 to the team size now? Yeah,
maybe I could also answer this one. So So actually, in case of M-Files, the team size has increased considerably during the last year. So our company is growing fast in the information management. We are growing like 25-30% every year. So it means that we are also focusing a lot on our product and improving our product, and we see that investment on QA is a good investment on the quality of the product. Originally, we spent quite a lot of effort in release testing and spending a long time ensuring that the release is high quality, and did a lot of manual testing. At the moment, we have good test automation and frequent incremental test automation in place. So from person point of view, we can focus mostly, almost exclusively on the new features. So we can, from QA point of view, focus on the new features and test them even better than what we did, since we don't need to focus so much on any manual regression testing and so on. And of course, we have invested on test automation as well, and Aspire systems has helped us a lot in developing our test automation. So part of the additional investment that we have done on the QA is on the test automation.
So the third question is like, how is it going to be helpful to have testers involved in every stage of product development? So that's probably true because so in most of the real situation that like, so testers are like when the testers are only involved in the actual testing phase, then they cannot act as advocate for the customers. Rather, like, so if they are right from the beginning, then they know like, so what the customer need, and what the customer is like needing, and then so what they should be focusing on the testing of that specific feature when it's being developed, and also they should know technically certain things to understand like, so what would be the impact on the old features because of the new feature. So it's like, instead of like being driven by the inputs what developer gives, if they are like driven from the first stage of the product development, then they could ensure quality more enough, and also like they could like ensure the quality more enough basically. So we are like 2 minutes. We have now only 2 minutes, and I think like we also have few more questions, but I think we need to wind up, and we will reach out to you in an email for those questions. So thanks a lot for all joining this webinar, and I would like to thank much Tero for being part of this Aspire webinar and sharing his experience on the need to implement incremental test automation, and how M-Files have benefited out of incremental test automation and continuous testing when got into the DevOps world. I'm sure that this session was interesting to you guys and very useful as well. So still, if you have more queries on the session or incremental test automation or continuous testing, please feel free to reach us. We would be much glad to answer you. And finally, thanks on behalf of M-Files and Aspire Systems. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.